Jimomi has not visited Arunachal in recent times. The NNPGA went a step further to accuse the NSCN-IM of using the Naga political talks as a license, quote unquote, as a license to extort the Nagaland government and the common people alike for 3 decades. That's what the NNPGA allegation is. On its part, the NSCN-IM has said in a statement again this week that rogue elements, quote unquote, are trying to bring about a destruction of the framework agreement with the blessings of the government of India, quote unquote. The NSCN-IM has accused intelligence agencies of engaging in a game of treachery, double dealings, and deceit. These are serious charges that obviously leads to questions whether the NSCN-IM is having a serious trust deficit with the government. To discuss the scenario, I'm joined from Kohima by Mr. Ajo Nenu, UDA co-chairman and a senior NPF leader. In New Delhi, I have Mr. Teza Terry, leader of the Naga Tribes Council. I'm joined from Dimapur by Mr. Eluendang, the General Secretary of the Naga Hoho. From Manipur, from Imphal actually, I'm joined by Mr. Lakpachui Siro, a member of the Global Naga Forum. And I'm also joined by Mr. KK Sema, a well-known commentator and a former IAS officer. Gentlemen, welcome to this edition of Northeast Tonight. Let me go straight to you, Mr. Ajo Nenu, the co-chairman of the ruling UDA and the senior leader of the Naga People's Front. You are also a member of the core committee on the Naga peace talks. Mr. Nenu, now there is no doubt that the deadlock in the Naga peace talks has to be broken. Everybody is trying to break the deadlock. My question to you, Mr. Nenu, do you see the deadlock breaking? Do you see it happening really, breaking of the deadlock?
Breaking of the deadlock can happen if our NSCN-IM brothers are more serious and they put more efforts. Over and above, it is in the court of the government of India also. If they put more efforts, these both parties, the deadlock can be broken. Both government of India and NSCN-IM.
Now, you know, for everybody is now saying that the deadlock happened from 31st of May when the NSCN-IM held that special National Assembly session attended by almost 2,000 of their members and leaders, where they said that without a flag and constitution, there can be no solution. That means, would you say that the ball is in the court of the government of India or the ball is in the court of the NSCN-IM? What do you think, Mr. Nenu?
The ball is in the court of the NSCN-IM. In my previous statement, in my previous interview also, I've stated the same thing. Mr.
Now, that is the big thing. That is the big question. I will come back to you. I'll come back to you. Let me once go to Mr. Eluendang. Mr. Eluendang, can you hear me first of all?
Yes, hello.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Eluendang, you know, the ball is in the court of the NSCN-IM. That is what Mr. Ajo Nenu, the co-chairman of the ruling UDA, is saying. He is also a member of the core committee. What do you think? How can this deadlock be broken according to you, Mr. Endang?
The first thing I would like to mention is that I don't see that there is a deadlock in the peace process. I only understand that this process is being delayed because of the failure of the government of India to address the issues raised by the Naga negotiators. Now, when the Naga negotiators have placed their demands to the government of India, the way government of India has reciprocated to their demands are never being made public. So having said this, how can we say that the ball is in the court of the NSNIM? It is absolutely with the government of India. Now, to justify this, why is the government of India not being in a position to come to a conclusion? And why this issue has been shifted to the Naga people? It is the handiwork of the government of India. What is the need for the government of India to sign 2 agreements to solve one issue? Having signed these 2 agreements, fooling the people, do we still say that the Naga people has to be blamed? I think I am very clear on this. Naga people should not be held responsible for whatever is taking place. Government of India should be very clear of its position if they are sincere to resolve the issue.
All right. I'll come back to you, Mr. Ndang. Let me go to New Delhi, where I am joined by Mr. Teza Terry, leader of the Naga Tribes Council. Mr. Teza Terry, the deadlock. Now we are discussing the ball lies in the court of the NSCNIM or the government of India. Mr. Elu Ndang of the Naga Hoho says the ball lies in the court of the government of India, not the NSCNIM. Whereas we have heard Mr. Ajo Nenyu, the co-chairman of the UDA, saying that the ball lies in the court of the NSCNIM. What do you think? Who has to make the first move?
Yeah, Mr. Wasbir, I don't take it as a deadlock. It is not a deadlock. But we need seriousness on the part of the NSC and IM to be serious and engage itself. And also on the part of the government of India, there has to be a political will. Flag and constitution are a symbolic representation of what is to be agreed upon. After negotiation, what they have agreed upon, the flag will reflect that status and position. I don't see there's any reason why there has to be a stalemate. They have to seriously discuss and hammer out what they want. If there's any point of time, they cannot proceed. They can walk out. They can pull out.
So that
Government of India also can close. This process cannot go on forever. Enough is enough.
Mr. Teza Terry, that's a very big statement you are making. You are saying that the talks cannot go on forever. If the NSC and IM cannot decide, they are free to pull out. Is that what you are saying?
Very clearly. 25 years is enough. And if they have any difficulty even after 25 years, what is stopping them from coming back to the people and let the people decide? We cannot bear the burden of this negotiation forever. For the sake of our future generation, we have to go on. We have to live our life. We cannot keep our faith hanging on the negotiation all the time.
Very big statement made by Teza Terry. He said that the NSC and IM, if they cannot decide what they want, they can pull out. And 25 years is a long time. The negotiations cannot go on forever. Let me turn to Mr. Lakpachui Siro, member of the Global Naga Forum. He is from Manipur, joining me from Imphal tonight. Mr. Siro, what do you think? You have been hearing the panelists making very, very clear-cut and forceful statements. We started with Mr. Ajo Nenyu saying that ball is in the court of the NSC and IM. They have to decide how to break the logjam. We have heard Mr. Elu Ndang saying that the ball lies in the court, not of the NSC and IM, but of the government of India. We have heard Teza Terry of the NTC saying that, NSC and IM can pull out if they cannot decide. 25 years is a long time. Talks cannot go on forever. What do you have to say? What is your opening remarks, Mr. Siro?
Thank you, Mr. Hussain, for inviting me in your show. First of all, in regards to the questions that you are asking, it is important for us to first identify the problem. What is the problem? Once we identify the problem, then I think we need to understand the nature of the problem. Then only I think we will be able to solve the problem. The problem that we see is we have a dividing, of course, we all want solution, but the question is what kind of solution that we are looking for. Within the Naga family, I think we are seeing a different version of solutions that we are interpreting. I think this is one of the principal problems that we are facing today. Some of our friends, including your esteemed panelists, think that the Naga solutions and the Naga movement restricts within the 16,500 square kilometers and the 14 Naga tribes living in Nagaland state. So that limited imaginations of the Naga nature of political struggles and the solutions that we are seeking, I think it's the principal problems that we are facing today. Once we are able to understand that the solution is inclusive of all the Nagas, in fact, the majority of the Nagas are living outside the 16,500 square kilometers and the 14 Naga tribes living in Nagaland state. And also, the areas are bigger outside the Nagaland state. Once we are able to understand this, then I think we will be able to resolve the problems that deadlock in a much better way. In the opening remark, I would like to limit here.
Right, right. Mr. Siro is very clear that the issue is not confined to the state of Nagaland and the 14 Naga tribes that inhabit Nagaland. It is much beyond, it goes beyond the borders of Nagaland. That's what the limited point Mr. Siro is making as part of his opening remark. Let me go to Mr. K.K. Sema, well-known commentator, former IAS officer. Mr. Sema, how do you see the situation? Do you have a formula to break the deadlock? Who has to blink first? Is it the government of India? Is it the NSCN-IM, according to you?
Well, I think the situation here is getting rather confused in our sentimental way of looking at a perspective rather than look at the reality. Our panelists have said that the state of Nagaland is not the perspective within which the totality of the national movement is being weighed. But the ground reality that I'd like to express is this. When the NSCN-IM decides to begin a negotiation segmenting themselves into so very many parts, where you have the autonomous regional councils in Manipur and Arunachal, that's the beginning of segmentation of the Nagas. And wanting to call the state of Nagaland as a nation for all Nagas is not an acceptable scenario where they enjoy the privileges in their own area and want to share the benefits and the privileges of the Naga nation, that is the state of Nagaland. So here, I am more than inclined to say that it is for NSCN-IM to clearly and honestly place whatever they are trying to do clearly and transparently to the Naga people, whether it is in Nagaland, state of Nagaland, or to the Nagas wherever they be. But minus the honest and transparent way of dealing with the stakeholders for whom they are negotiating, I think I would fairly place the responsibility on the NSCN-IM
Right.
to get back to the stakeholders and honestly tell us what the hell are they trying to do. And once they are able to transparently share their efforts, I think the Nagas, whether it's in Manipur, Arunachal, Assam, or the state of Nagaland,
Okay.
will be able to back them up in any manner as long as they are honestly handling the issue.
All right.
But
I will.
there are, let me just complete it.
Okay.
They are sharing only half truth to the people, and they are not sharing the complete picture of exactly what is the status of the negotiation thus far.
All right.
So it is
All right.
incumbent on the NSCNIM to come out clearly and let the people know
Okay.
what they are trying to do.
All right, you have made your point. You have made your point, Mr. Sema. I'll come back to you. Let me go once again to Mr. Ajo Nenu, the UDA co-chairman and leader of the NPF. Mr. Ajo Nenu, you know, the NSC and IM statement of 10th July, you know, where it says that, quote unquote, rogue elements, they've described as rogue elements, are trying to bring about a destruction of the framework agreement with the blessings of the government of India, within quotes. Now, they are saying rogue elements with the blessings of the government of India is trying to destroy the framework agreement. Now, doesn't it clearly indicate that the NSC and IM has totally lost trust with the government of India? And if so, don't you think that it will be much more difficult to break the deadlock?
See, before I come to that, let me clarify some certain things.
Yeah.
One, I want to agree with one of the members who stated that the problem should be identified. The problem here is the constitution and the flag. And we must, as I stated earlier in my previous interview, we must appreciate Government of India for going out all the way to accommodate the flag and the constitution. Because Government of India stated that it would accommodate the Yazabo by trying to incorporate in the constitution, number one. The Government of India also stated that they would recognize the flag to be used in social, cultural, and can be hosted in private buildings, but cannot fly parallel with the Union flag. So we must appreciate Government of India. So that's why I still reiterate my stand that the ball is in the court of IM. But nevertheless, we can say both can be blamed at the same time also. Now, coming to the provocative statements issued against one another, I would like to advise both the parties not to issue provocative statements against each other, because this way the solution will be kept in stagnant.
Yes, but
They
Mr. Nenu,
rise up above tribalism.
right?
They should rise up above factionalism.
No, rise above
And learn to
tribalism.
live as Nagas and learn to rise up above tribalism, rise up above factionalism, and learn to live as Nagas and learn to live as leaders as well. If they think they are leaders of the Nagas,
True, Mr.
they
Nenu.
should not try to provoke one another by
Mr.
issuing
Nenu,
provocative statements all the time.
absolutely, Mr. Nenu. No,
And-
nobody can. No, everybody. I'm sure will agree with what you are saying. You have to rise above tribalism, above factionalism. Don't give provocative statements. Nobody will disagree with what you are saying. But this is the reality. This is happening. War of words is the order of the day among the factions in Nagaland
That's why
today.
it's very truly sad. They should restrain themselves and they should come to a certain understanding, because we're all fighting for the same cause.
Right. But my question is, I would
So
like an
one
answer.
should not try to give provocative statements.
Right. But my question is, now that the NSC and IM has issued a statement on 10th of July, where they are saying that rogue elements, with the blessings of the government of India, are trying to destroy the framework agreement. And they have blamed the Indian intelligence agencies of engaging in what they call a game of treachery, double dealings, and deceit. These are the words used by the NSCN in the statement. Now, my question is simple. My question to you is simple. Doesn't it indicate that the NSC and IM has lost all trust with the government of India?
Yes, this indicates very much. And this way talks will break down.
Therefore, if this is so, how do you expect the deadlock to be broken? How will the deadlock be broken now?
The deadlock can be broken if government of India puts more effort, if IM can have a better understanding, and if the two factions can be brought under one table, and if they can discuss threadbare of the differences, hammer out the differences, and work out something which can be acceptable to the Nagas in the greater interest of the Nagas.
Now, Mr. Eluandang, do you admit, would you admit that there is a trust deficit between the interlocutors or the government side and the NSCN-IM? Why is the NSCN-IM issuing such hard-hitting statements?
See, with time passing by, we are made to understand that there is already a trust deficit between the government of India and the Naga negotiators. We are worried because, as one of our panelists has stated, this process cannot go on forever. We'll have to arrive at a conclusion sooner than later. Now, with this trust deficit, how do we bring back the trust and confidence between the government of India and the Naga people? I believe if both the groups, in a sense, government of India and the NSCN negotiators agree, they should involve the third party which can break, or otherwise, which can bring about confidence between the negotiators. Otherwise, at this rate, we don't see much hope.
Now, what do you mean by third party? What do you mean by third party? Do you mean that a political leader has to come into the picture and try to take the peace process forward? Are you saying that the talks should be elevated to a political level?
Yeah, obviously, a third party, a neutral person, observer should be there. Because now, when the government of India takes its position, at the same time, when the NSCN gives up its position, there is no witness. What has really transpired in the negotiation, nobody knows. Today we are debating on speculations. Nobody is a party to it. None of us are a witness. And therefore, if we have to strengthen the peace process, if we are sincerely looking for a resolution, government of India also must see that a third neutral party is involved in the process.
So, Mr. Teza Terry, do you believe that the talks has to be elevated to a political level? Do you think a political leader must get involved in the process now, trying to break the logjam? Okay, I think I don't have Teza Terry on that on the thing. Let me go to Mr. Siro and Mr. Sema. First, let me go to Mr. Siro, Mr. Lakpachao Siro. Mr. Siro, do you think a political leader has to now get into the peace process to give them the necessary momentum?
Mr. Hussain, just before I answer to the involvement of political leader, I would like to interject on some of the points that our panelists have highlighted in regards to government of India willingness to resolve the ongoing peace dialogue. And rather, the Naga leaders' skepticism towards the principal negotiator. When I say principal negotiator, the NSCN, principal negotiator of Naga people in the peace process. So what I sense is that if you look back the background of how the peace talks started, the peace talk started because unlike the current politicians as in those Nagas who have already entered in Indian politics, or maybe people who have chosen to write the Indian civil services exam and become officers. So unlike them, there were some Naga group populations that wanted to stand for the Naga nationhood. Because of their long arm movement, the peace process
No,
and the current political dialogue started.
Yeah. What is the point you are trying to make? Very in brief.
Unfortunately, what we are sensing is that we are sensing that the politicians, the elected members, or the bureaucrats seems to have the better way of finding a solution rather than the person who are actually fighting for the political movement. So I think it is important that we understand the concerns of the principal negotiators. If we respect the positions, then I think we can move forward. Otherwise, we have different versions coming out. Yeah? The solution should be like this. The ball is with the NSA and IM. This is all, versions maybe perhaps given by the Indian leaders, maybe Home Minister, maybe Prime Minister.
But the point
is that
is,
the reality?
But
that is another question.
Point is, Mr. Siro,
16-point agreement.
Mr. Siro, let us see, Mr. Siro. Let us not go back, because in a debate, we don't have much time. So we all know the Naga history. All of us, most of us here know the Naga history, the failure of the 16-point agreement, the Shillong Accord, and so on and so forth. But the point is, now let me ask this question. When you are talking principal negotiator, there are two sides. NSC and IM on one side, NNPG is on the other side. Now the NSC and IM says that a flag and constitution is a must, and NNPG says that our talks are over, we are ready to sign the agreement because there is already an agreed position. Now the issue is, can we have an accord without one group? Now, Mr. Theza Terry was very big statement. He said that if the NSC and IM wants, they can pull out. Now, these are big statements. Now, how to bring about a synergy? How to bring the two sides? We have been talking about the need for the two sides to come together. The Charles has been trying. The Charles has failed. Everybody has failed so far. Even the core committee has not succeeded. Now, I'll come back with those questions to you, Mr. Siro, a little later. Let me quickly go to Mr. Ajo Neno once again before I go to Mr. Theza Terry. I don't know whether we have the line to Theza. Okay, I'll come to Theza, but Mr. Ajo Neno, now, you see, the core committee, all the political parties in Nagaland have decided to form an opposition-less government in a bid to facilitate. Now you have formed a core committee. Core committee is meeting day after tomorrow in Kohima. Now, what will be the stand of the core committee?
Firstly, let me come to your previous question. You see, Naga political issue or problem is a political issue. And so therefore, if a politician is involved, it will be much better instead of a bureaucrat or an ex-military man or an ex-policeman, number one. Number two, core committee will be sitting on 16, 10, 30. And we might be, I have not read the minds of other members because previously I have already missed one very important meeting. But we might come up with a certain resolution to give a last push or make a big breakthrough to the Naga political talks.
Now, Mr. Neno, is the core committee, do you think, what is the sense you are getting? Do you think the core committee this time is going to set a deadline? Or do you think the core committee this time is to come up with the idea to tell the government of India as well as the negotiators from the Naga leaders' side to fix a certain time frame for resolution of the peace talks?
Yeah, I think that is a rough idea, what you have already said, that we might come with that line.
Now,
might come up.
This may be a big breaking story day after tomorrow, that the core committee may come up with the idea that the government of India, the NSC and IM and the NNPGs,
Yes.
they have to fix a time frame within which
Yes.
to resolve the differences and sign a possible Naga peace accord. Now, Mr. KK Sema, does it look like that?
Yeah.
Do you think
To
that
give
is
a
going?
last push.
That is, Mr. Neno describes it as the last push. That is a very significant statement coming from the co-chairman of the co-chairman of the UDA and the important member of the core committee. Last push. Do you think the people are getting restive? 25 years is a long enough time, Mr. Sema. Mr. Sema, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Now, the core committee may come up with the idea of a time frame. They might suggest the government of India as well as the Naga groups that you should fix a time frame to resolve the differences. Now, do you think that is going to happen? Do you think that will work? Because 25 years has already passed by since the negotiations began.
To my mind, I think the core committee is setting up a schedule for the end solution is not going to work. The elementary problem lies in the fact that the stakeholders are still not sure as to what the contents of the whole problem is. The framework agreement has been signed after 4 years of a total discussion and having arrived at certain conclusions where finally framework agreement has been signed. Somebody is just not telling the truth. Is it the government of India who is telling a lie? Or is it the NSA who is telling us a lie? Is it?
No,
And
Mr. If I may
no, and
interject.
as far as I'm concerned, my point is simple. As long as NSC and IM is unprepared to share the contents of their competency clauses to the stakeholders, no matter who fixes any time frame for solution, it won't work.
No, the issue
Because
now,
the-
Mr. Sama, if I sorry to interject, let us not go into the entire competencies. Now the deadlock is because the NSC and IM is saying we want a flag and a constitution, which is the core issue. They're saying that Nagas cannot do without a flag and constitution. Let us stick to these 2
No.
points. Now, what is the way forward?
No, you see, these are the confusion that we are all going through. What is the relevance of a flag without integration? NSC and IM has given up on the issue of integration, and yet they want to declare the state of Nagaland as a Naga nation for all Nagas beyond the boundary of the state of Nagaland. What is the meaning of a flag without integration? I can
Okay.
understand that a Yesabo, where a special identity is incorporated into the Constitution of India to protect the identity of the Nagas, to that extent I can understand. But minus integration, you are calling the state of Nagaland as a Naga nation for all Nagas. That is not palatable.
All
and
right.
So, NSC and IM needs clearly put their efforts on the table and let the people, the stakeholders, decide what direction we need to take in their support, provided they
All right.
are
All right.
willing to
All right.
share
Mr.
and
Sema.
honest truth to the people.
Right. I will go for a very short commercial break, less than a minute actually. Then I'll come back and go direct to Teza Terry in New Delhi and carry on this conversation. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
The Tupul railway yard where this massive landslide took place. There was a camp of the territorial army. There were camps of the railway. The landslide started and it came down all the way and it went down furthermore many meters down to the None River. The officials of the NDRF, SDRF, and also the local people who are carrying out the search and rescue operations.
The Shillong Pamai, he's the exact person just lead the rescue operation from this side. This is Saroi Pandongba village. This is a river side on the Saroi Pandongba side.
कि हम और आप कभी नहीं सोच सकते थे कि डीमा हाथों में इस तरह का न्यू हाफलोंग रेलवे स्टेशन इतना कुछ हो सकता है और इसी रेलवे स्टेशन में विस्ताडूम जैसा ट्रेन यहाँ पर स्पेशल टूरिस्ट आने जाने के लिए भी यहाँ पे रिसेंटली चलाया दिया गया था.
You can see the people are trying. The local people are trying to help each other.
Okay, welcome back. Let me go straight to Mr. Eluendang, the General Secretary of the Naga Hoho. Mr. Eluendang, you have heard, let's have everybody on the screen. Mr. Eluendang, you have heard Mr. Ajo Neno indicating that the core committee in its meeting day after tomorrow may come up with a suggestion to the government of India and the Naga groups, that is the NSC and IM and the NNPGs, that they should fix a time frame or a deadline within which to solve their differences and possibly sign a Naga accord. Do you think that that can be worked on? Do you think that is workable?
Wasir, if we look back at the negotiation process, it all started with mutually agreed points that the negotiation will be without preconditions. And therefore, I don't see any practicality if any of the groups place a time frame. Because just the recent 2019, 31st October, we have experienced.
So Mr. Eluendang, my direct question to you, you think that means, do you think that the talks should go on indefinitely until and unless the NSA and IM agrees to the solution? Are you saying that?
You see, it is a negotiation. We don't want the process to keep on forever. There has to be a meeting point, of course, that we agree. But if we have to look for a permanent settlement or solution with an imposed agreement, I don't think that will last.
No,
So
how?
with a time frame, if within time frame, if it can be agreed, nothing, no better than that.
No, okay.
But I don't believe that within time frame it will work out.
Yeah, but you are regarding the time frame also as a precondition, is it?
Yes.
So, Mr.
Because
Neno,
within certain parameter,
right?
if we have to come, that amounts to imposition.
All right, Mr. Neno, Eluendang thinks that the time frame or a
Yes.
deadline is also a precondition.
It may be a precondition or not, but you see, how long can the talks continue? It cannot continue forever, as our member Teja has said. So we must come to a logical conclusion. And to bring it to a logical conclusion, we must put some pressure to the government of India also.
Okay, it's not just Nagaland. We are getting a bad connection even from New Delhi. So that is amazing, actually. So now, Teza
Yeah.
Terry, if you can hear us on the phone, Teza, can you hear me first of all?
Very clearly.
Okay, now you see, Mr. Ajo Nenu said that the core committee day after tomorrow may, he is not sure, may come up with a proposal that there has to be a time frame. Now, Mr. Elu Endang of the Naga Ho says that there cannot be a time frame, and time frame also amounts to a precondition. Now, what is your view?
Yeah, the core committee is at liberty to come out with its own proposal, but he cannot set a condition to the negotiating parties. But in between the two entities, the negotiating parties, they can always set a deadline, and they can conclude within that stipulated deadline.
So, do you consider the deadline as a precondition?
No, deadline set by the government of India and the negotiator cannot be a precondition. Whatever happens, it should happen on the negotiating table.
So now, Mr. Siro, what do you think? Should there be a deadline? Should there be no deadline? Mr. Siro.
I think deadline is not the issue here. The issue is whether the government of India is really able to appreciate the level of concessions that the principal negotiator has made, and will the government of India be magnanimous enough to really, address the issue and then resolve the long negotiated political dialogue.
No, many
So I
will,
think that is
Mr.
the
Siro,
crux of the problem.
Mr.
If the
Siro,
government of India is able to...
Mr. Siro, many will ask the question. See, the NNPGs came into the picture much later, okay? It was the NSC and IM that in 1997 entered into a ceasefire with the government of India and started the negotiation process. Now the point is, many will ask this question: in the last 25 years, why could not the NSC and IM resolve the issue of a flag and constitution with the government of India's negotiators at various points of time? What is your response?
I think as most of your esteemed panelists in the earlier show have already stated, that Naga political issue is a very complex issue. Henceforth, the delay in the process. But in the long drawn process, I think they have gained step by step. In 2002, recognitions of unique Naga history and position. Framework agreement in 2002.
Okay. Right, but therefore, if the NSC and IM is saying that the flag and constitution are their core issue, that was a clear-cut statement given by the NSC and IM chairman, Mr. Q Tuku.
Yes.
Mr. Q Tuku had issued a statement where very clearly said that before the National Assembly session on 31st May, much earlier, he had said that the flag and constitution are the core issues. So you are saying that in the last 25 years, you have been discussing issues step by step, and the core issue came up for discussion only now.
Of course, certainly not. Obviously, it is stated positions from the NSCN side that they want, of course, an independent Naga state. But I think, considering the present complexities and also the nature of the problems, I think they have come down with certain concessions. So that the nature of the concessions, they are working out on what basis the concession will be based on the solution will be based on. So I think it's a long-drawn negotiation, and government of India, with the change of new government, they keep changing the interlocutor, new prime minister. So I think a lot of things are involved. But I think the important thing is that in previous accord that we see, it's all a fragmented accord. Right now, if we go for a solution that continues to continue to be a fragmented one, I think we will witness a new violence again. Therefore, of course, it's a long-drawn negotiation, but most of the sensible Nagas will realize that for us to have a peace, it is important that we have an honorable solution. Solutions that at least government of India respects core aspirations of the Naga people. Where is the united platform for the Nagas? Right now, the solution as envisaged by the 7 NNPGs, there is no common platform for the Nagas. Our esteemed panelist KK Sema was saying that without integration, no flag is required. Whether we have solution right now or not, we are still getting the Naga flag. This is our pride. This is the pride of the Naga nation. Whether integration, no integration, solution, no solution. So the problem is if the peace process is guided by an advisor like KK Sema, who is a retired bureaucrat or a politician, then we will not see a political solution. It will rather complicate the solution. So that's the reason why we have to understand the feeling, the pulse, and the positions of the people who have been fighting, sacrificing everything.
Absolutely.
Tomorrow, if the ceasefire breakdowns, they are willing to live.
Mr. Sema, Mr. Siro has been made very, very forceful points that, you know, it may further complicate the situation if you come up with an argument saying that flag is unnecessary without integration. What is your response?
I don't know why we are trying to live in a dream world of brotherhood when the elementary philosophy of the NSC and IM is to declare the state of Nagaland as a nation for all Nagas, no matter where they live. And while they enjoy their own benefits in their own respective independent territorial councils, they want to enjoy the privileges with the people belonging to the state of Nagaland as well. And in the earlier instance, I have made it very clear, the philosophy of mine is mine, yours is ours, is a philosophy that is not a palatable philosophy that is being peddled by NSC and IM. The flag and the constitution, if I may mention so.
Okay.
All the years that they have taken to arrive at the framework agreement has not incorporated such an issue of the flag and the Yesabo. It is an aftermath of framework agreement.
Okay.
Because NSC and IM does not want a solution at all.
Okay, we'll
So
have to wait and watch. We'll have to, Mr. Sema.
More than happy.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and watch. I'm running short of time. Mr. Ajoneno, yes, your final comments. Mr. Ajoneno.
Yes. On the flag and constitution.
Yes.
I will agree with KK Sema. Constitution, a separate constitution and a separate flag is only required for independent countries and nations. And so I would agree with KK Sema.
Final comments, Elu and Dang. A separate flag and constitution is necessary only for independent countries, and the Naga solution is not giving the Nagas an independent country as such.
Allow me to make 3 points. Number one, as long as the government of India lacks political will, the political settlement will not take place, even if any group gives a time frame. Number two, there is an inconsistency on the part of interlocutor. We have come across many interlocutors, but there is no consistency, and therefore, 25 years of negotiation, each interlocutor, every time new interlocutor comes in, it has to start from fresh again. And this is where the Naga political dialogue is dragging on. And thirdly, on the issue of flag and constitution, what is the harm? What is wrong in having our own flag? Flag is our identity. It is our dignity.
Okay.
And what is the harm in having our own constitution, which governs the Naga people? Why do we talk things on assumptions and fictitious statements?
All
We
right.
said we are not a part of the negotiation table, but we talk as if we are a part of the negotiation. I think we're wrong.
Absolutely.
And if the state core committee is not being able to give a constructive role, then I think the core committee should get out of this process.
Okay, you are saying that core committee, if they cannot give a direction, should get out of the process.
Oh no, constructive role. If the core committee cannot play a constructive role, they should not get involved.
All right. I don't want to get into this. Last comments. I'll come to you, Ajoneno, to comment on this. But Teza Terry, 20 seconds, final comments from you. How do you see the road ahead? Are you hopeful? Are you pessimistic?
The core committee can exert as much as pressure they can. And the people, this is a people's movement. So people have every right to exert pressure on both the negotiation parties. And that will definitely come. As far as flag is considered here, the flag is a symbol. It depends on what negotiation status, political status that has arrived after negotiation. The flag will represent and symbolize that status. At the moment, to ask Government of India or to take from Government of India, to me, I think that is a non-issue. It depends.
All right.
You can hammer out from this negotiation.
Last word, Mr. Ajoneno. If the core committee cannot give constructive suggestions, you should get out of the process. That is what Elu Endang has said. Your final comments, very, very briefly.
That's a very unbecoming comment. And I think individuals should not give comments on the core committee's works. Whatever the core committee is doing a commendable job. We are acting as facilitators and people should appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Wasbir.
Thank you very much, all the panelists, for this engaging discussion. This is not the last word that we have heard on the Naga peace process. It is indeed in a very, very critical stage. There are definitely fault lines are absolutely drawn. One side saying that the ball is in the court of the NSC and IM, the other side saying that the ball is in the court of the Government of India. The core committee might come up with a deadline, suggestion of a deadline to both the Government of India and the stakeholders, that is the NSC and IM and the NNPGs. But the Naga groups like the Naga Ho said that there cannot be any deadline. The groups like the Naga Tribes Council said that the talks cannot go on forever. The core committee also thinks that the talks cannot go on forever. And you know, this is a very, very tricky situation. It will require lot of efforts on the part of a catalyst, if at all there is a catalyst in the near future, and whether that catalyst is going to be the Assam Chief Minister and NEDA convener, Dr. Himanta Biswa Sharma. We don't know. We are bringing up his name only because he was recently met by a delegation of the Global Naga Forum, which has later gone and met the NSC and IM, and there has been a reference there has been a plea to Dr. Himanta Biswa Sharma to come and act as a facilitator even from the core committee. Now, a lot of things can happen. We'll have a close focus on that very, very crucial core committee meeting day after tomorrow. That is on Saturday. That is the 16th of July. I thank once again all my panelists for being on the show and the viewers for watching the program. Good night and goodbye.
जाएंगे हम वहां